Today we're going to be talking about something called an indirect question. Now, in order for us to figure out how they look in Latin and how to translate them into English, we got to know what they actually look like in English. So let's go ahead and figure out what a direct question is in order to figure out what an indirect question is. So a direct question is just that, a question. You can see here I've already failed the basic kindergarten and I don't have a question mark at the end of my question, so let's go ahead and fix that. So the direct question is, where is the school? You just want to know where the school is. And the other direct question is, how is your cat? I'm sure these are all quality questions that you ask each other on a daily basis. So you'll just notice that a direct question is just a question. So for us, we can basically just pretend the word direct doesn't exist and just say, this is a question. But an indirect question is not actually a question at all. It has a question in the statement, but it's a statement. If we take a look at the question, if we take a look at the indirect question, my friend asked me where the school is. We can see my question from above is right here. And the question is, where is the school? But it's not actually a question. It's a statement that a friend had asked me what this is. So the friend asked, where is the school? Okay, so there's a question, but it's actually in a statement. My brother wants to know, how is the cat? It's not actually a question, but just a statement of what his brother wants to know. He wants to know, how is the cat? The question is right here. How is the cat? But if you wanted to ask directly, you could say, where's the school? How is the cat? And that's why it's called an indirect question. It's not directly asking the question, how is the cat? I mean, you could answer it. My brother wants to know, how is the cat? And you could probably say, the cat's great. But it's not directly asking someone. It's sort of going around the bush, beating around it. When my friend asked me where the school is, I could answer, the school is on the left over here, or you could just leave it alone. It's not exactly a question. So let's keep going. So as I stated before, an indirect question is a question that has been embedded into a statement. It is not actually a question, but there's a question in the statement. Now in Latin, indirect questions have a format that they follow. You will always have a main verb, a question word, and a verb in the subjunctive. So when I'm talking about those subjunctive verbs, these are when we were talking about these words that have an isse in it, or the ones that are the infinitive plus an ending. We've done the pluperfect subjunctive and we've done the indicative subjunctive. So we've always seen subjunctive so far used in a cum clause. This is just another way they are used to show an indirect question. And question words are questions like who, what, when, where, why. I'll show you in a minute what they look like in Latin. And a main verb is everything that we've been doing so far. Your indicative verbs, your ends with your ost, mus, tis, unt. Not the subjunctive, but your main indicative verb. Usually it's going to be some sort of word in question, asking a question or wanting to know something, but it can really be whatever. And you'll also see down here, I said, remember, it has a question in the sentence, but it itself is not a question. So I think this is like the fourth time I've said it. Make sure you realize it is not actually a question. So let's keep going. So here are some common question words that are in Latin. We have cur, quare, quid, quis, ubi, quo, unde, quando, quomodo, quote, qualis. You'll notice that most of them start with Q. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about that, but I've told you when you guys are in Latin too, when you see a Q word, it might make you cry a little bit, but this is why. So you might want to either make note of these or just realize if it starts with a Q, it's probably a question word. So going back to our main idea of a main verb, a question word, and a subjunctive verb, I have 3 sentences that all are in the indirect statement. So let me show you what they look like. So I'm going to start with the easy ones to find, the question word. Mater me rogavit ubi essem. Ubi is a question word, so I'm just going to box that in purple. Amicus dicere volt quomodo crustulum fecissent. Quomodo, that's a question word. Nemo scivet quot crustula cinavisem. Quote, that's a question word. All right? Let's see what else I can see in this pattern. My main verb, I'm going to make this one blue. I have a will gawit. I have a wolt dikere and a skiwit. And let's see if it follows the final one, a verb in the subjunctive. Esem, fekisit, kinawisem. And you can even see, like, this is the imperfect. We have the pluperfect and another pluperfect. And of course, these are your basic Latin 2 verbs, so I'm not going to go over these. So you can see they all follow a same basic pattern of a main verb, a question word, and a subjunctive verb. Latin is all full of patterns. Once you start recognizing these patterns, translating is easier. So let's actually translate these sentences. Mater me rogawit ubi esem. My main verb here is rogawit, asked. My mother, I'm going to assume it's mine, so let's going to go with my mother, asked me, my direct object. Now what I have here is my actual indirect question. It starts with my question word, and then it ends over here with my verb in the subjunctive. So what did my mother ask me? Where, which is ubi. The anladuino, my subject, is I, where I was, because it's in the imperfect tense. So my mother asked me where I was. My indirect question is right here, where I was. Let's do the next one. Amicus diceret quomodo crucialum fecisit. I'm going to go ahead and mark off my indirect question because I can recognize it because I have this Q word. Let me know it's a question word. I have my subjunctive right here, so I know this is the end. Fecisit. So I know my main sentence is amicus vult dicere. My friend wants to tell. I can spell basic English words. Quomodo. How. Fecisit. This is in the pluperfect because I can tell from the C set. He had made. And then you have your direct object of your little indirect question, how he had made the cookie. So your main question, if it was direct, is how did he make the cookie? And that's how we know. And let's do this last one. I see this quote, which is letting me know this isn't a question, so I'm going to mark this off here. Kanawisem, I can clearly see that this is in the subjunctive, so I'm going to mark this off here. And so my main verb is skiwit, so nobody knew. Quote, how many cookies I had eaten. So while you're translating, look for these patterns. Look for these question word and a verb in the subjunctive. Blocking this off will make it so much easier for you to realize that you have your main sentence and then you have your indirect question. So keep this pattern with you as we go on translating this term. So let's review what we've learned. An indirect question has a question in it, but is not actually a question. An indirect question is made with the following three things. It is made with a main verb, an interrogative or a question word, or a verb that is in the subjunctive. All three of those are needed to have an indirect question. And the final is the subjunctive verb is translated just like its indicative counterpart. So there's no fancy way to translate the subjunctive, you just translate it according to its tense.